Alright, now that we already went through the grammar translation method, we are going to move on to the next one, which really contrasts with the previous one. This is the direct method. In this method, there is a lot of demonstration, dramatization, and many strategies to explain meanings without using students' mother tongue. Why? Because the idea is that students get an immediate and direct experience with the language by having close and constant contact with the language. For example, if we are teaching English in Central America, Ecuador, and Colombia, following the direct method would mean to live a daily life in the English classroom, avoiding the use of Spanish at all costs. It's important to note that this method comes from Germany and France. It originated near the year 1900. Back then, industrialization and international trading and traveling made communication more challenging. This is why there was the need to develop oral skills, and the grammar translation method wasn't able to meet these needs. They needed more than that. Well, if we have a look at our world today, this situation hasn't changed that much. We have the same need. Actually, this situation has become more and more challenging now that we are living in a globalized world. Don't you think? At the beginning, it wasn't very easy. Historically, this method was hard for public schools to integrate. There were constraints of budget, classroom size, time, teacher background. This means whether the teacher was fluent, proficient, or probably native. And well, probably some other details. But when it was implemented, the results started to speak by themselves. Its focus is clearly oral skills. That means listening and speaking, both in monologue and in interaction. This method has been accepted in so many countries around the world, and probably we might have used it without even knowing its name. Let us tell you something. There are interesting ways to understand this method. One of them is teach the language, not about the language. What does it mean? Well, sometimes the focus on grammar can help, but if we dedicate all the time to understanding that, then how are students going to develop the skills to actually use it? If they listen to us in English most of the time, and if they try their best to deduce what we are trying to say, by following our gestures, body language, and so on, they will be more likely to develop English communicative skills. In the direct method, we teach English by speaking English. We don't only show how the language works on the board. It's not enough. We are the models that show how English works by speaking and fostering natural interaction in English in the classroom, and probably outside the classroom as well. And this has an explanation. Look, the people who came up with this method realized that learning a second language needed to be as natural and spontaneous as a child learning his or her mother tongue. This is why this method has a strong emphasis on sounds, simple sentences, and direct association of the language and the environment in which it's used. This method has also been known as the natural method, the phonetical method, the anti-grammatical method, and the reform method. But essentially, the change that it proposes is that we teach by using the language to its fullest, even if students make so many mistakes at the beginning. But aren't you wondering why we call this method the direct method? Well, it has this name because meaning is directly connected to the language that we are learning. We skip the first language, we skip students' mother tongue. If we want to do a lesson by following the direct method, we can do the following. We can teach concepts and vocabulary through pantomiming, gestures, body language, using real-life objects and other visual materials. We can also have students find out rules by themselves by carefully analyzing examples of adequate grammatical sentence in the target language. Some other tips from this method are: help students to correct themselves. They learn a lot from self-correction. They become more aware and more conscious. The syllabus should be based on topics, not on structures, because contexts guide the learning. Emphasize on students' pronunciation. It's very important so that they are able to get their message across. Foster thinking in English. The purpose is for students to think in English after leaving the classroom. If you teach real communication, you will help better those students who have real and immediate communicative needs. And remember, according to this method, teachers don't translate, they demonstrate. And teachers don't give rules to the students. Students figure them out with their teacher's guidance. We hope that you enjoyed the contributions from this method, and we expect you to put them into practice for the benefit of our beloved Bethlemites students. Now, share in the discussion forum your thoughts on the following question. What is important to take and apply from this method? Please don't forget to support your answers by telling everybody why you think so.